So, welcome, and I've got a very fantastic lineup of speakers actually to talk to you about Apprentice of the Year. I think this is going to be a really great segment for you all joining us this evening. Today, we are talking about Apprentice of the Year, and this is really about how to succeed. So, I'm going to turn it over to Charlotte Beauchamp. Sorry, I just mispronounced that, who is the head of competition events, and she runs these and gets everybody organized and runs a really fantastic competition. So I'm going to turn it over to her now, and she will um, get started.
Thank you very much, and lovely to have you all here watching this live, and to the team that are going to be involved in presenting this to you. We're really hoping this becomes a resource that can be tapped into further down the track when people are their own journey in the process of entering, and then needing a reminder of what happens throughout the process once you're involved. So we're really excited to be able to pull this together. I thought I'll just start by introducing everybody. Yes, I'm Charlotte and I look after the competitions and events across from a national perspective, and I am based here in Wellington. We have also got Fernanda, who is our Senior Marketing and Comms Advisor, also based in Wellington. And we have got Tessa Hartley, who's based in Auckland as the Auckland Branch Administrator. And Tessa's really heavily involved in Apprentice of the Year. And if you're thinking of entering from the Auckland or Northern region, you will be very well looked after by Tessa, along with any of the other branch admins that are based throughout the country as well. They'll be your first point of call for any problems you might have in relation to, or any questions you might have in relation to getting involved in this. We're also really lucky to have Paddy Kimbrikos, who is one of our national AOI judges and has been judging it for a number of years. I don't know how many years, so I won't give a number in case I get it wrong. But Paddy is very knowledgeable and is a great asset to this competition. We're also lucky to have Hunter Moon, who was our 2024 National AOI winner, come to share his thoughts and experience, as well as Mike Watson, who was one of our 2023 national finalists. So they will be able to talk from their perspective as well, which is going to be really helpful. Okay, so moving on. We do this, we run this competition to recognise excellence in New Zealand's young carpentry apprentices, celebrating them and their employers as well, giving everybody the opportunity to test themselves against their peers and to celebrate their skills and to take them on that journey to become the leaders effectively in our future leaders for the construction industry. A couple of things just to clarify up front. We like to call these our mythbusters. These are our frequently asked questions, if you like. Do you have to work for a master builder? No, you do not. You do not have to work with, your employer does not have to be a master builder. You can be doing your apprenticeship with any builder. You don't have to either be trained through a particular training provider either. So any appropriate training provider is fine, and there is no age range to enter. I think last year we had somebody in their early 60s perhaps. So yeah, there is no age limit to being able to be involved, which is great. Now I'm going to hand over to Hunter first, just to talk about his experience from hearing from him about why you should enter. So Hunter, over to you.
Yeah, g'day. Like Charlotte said before, I'm Hunter. I was lucky enough to take out last year's comp. More or less, I think literally every carpentry apprentice should enter this competition for no other reason other than you should challenge yourself and see how far you can go. Because I certainly didn't have the confidence in myself to think that I'd get this far. And the biggest challenge of the whole competition is just getting started and entering. that's the thing that scares most people away. And so even just being here and considering entering is a great first step. And all you need to do is just take the leap and get yourself signed up, because you won't regret it. I've certainly, yeah, got a heap of opportunities, met a heap of cool people, and proved to myself that I could do it. Um, there's a heap of cool prizes on offer as well. Um, yeah, so and the whole event is super well organized and really well run by Charlotte and her team. Yeah, I've thoroughly enjoyed being a part of it. Yeah.
Thanks, Hunter. I didn't even have to pay you to say that. Mike, have you got anything you wanted to add?
I think for me, my mentality was that once you're qualified and you're gone, you don't get another chance at it. So I kind of thought this was like one opportunity to do it, that I better just jump in and give it a go. And similar to what Hunter said, it's just like you're not really sure how far you can go, but you've got to be in it to win it. So I kind of entered it just to have some fun and didn't expect to make the finals or anything like that, but had a great time when I went there. So yeah, I definitely highly recommend entering. It's been an awesome experience throughout the whole journey.
Thanks, Mike, very much. We'll cut back to these guys a little bit later as well, just to kind of cover off a few other bits of the competition just for the input too. So part of the prizes that Hunter touched on is that everyone that enters does get a Carter's gift pack, and that is presented to you at the regional practical event. So I will talk in a little bit around the order of the different events that make up the competition, but that's given out at each of the practical regional competitions. We have, obviously the apprentices are a huge part of this competition, but so are the employers, and we get a lot of feedback from the apprentices that do well in the competition. They are really well supported by their employers. Excuse me. And it's also a huge benefit to your employer for you to enter. They get somebody out of it that has grown with their skills and their leadership. So it's a really positive opportunity as an employer to get involved, to get to support their apprentices to being involved. Hunter or Mike, is there anything you want to share from your experience, that from conversations you've had with your employers around what they've seen are the benefits?
Yeah, 100%. I'd say one of the big things is that you are as an employer, if you enter and your apprentices do well, you're highlighting yourself as a place where people come and do well. You're saying we're a company that hires and trains successful people, and these are the people that are going to hopefully stay with us and take our company forward. So you're making yourself both look attractive to maybe a client, saying, hey, like these are the skilled people that we're employing. You're saying to potential employees, people that might want to work for you, hey, this is how well you can do if you come and work with us. You're kind of benchmarking your employees as well against others. If your employees do well, then hey, you're probably doing a pretty good job. The other thing I'd say, just to do with employers and their involvement, is for all the apprentices, is that you really need to get your boss on board, get your company on board with you entering. Maybe they haven't somehow even heard of the competition before. They might not have been involved before, but they are a critical part of the process. You need them to endorse you. You need them to help you with the site visit. You may want their help with doing your write-ups on the jobs. I know that I referred to my boss and managers quite consistently throughout the process. They had, lucky for me, been involved in years prior, so they had some experience to share. And
Okay, so basically we had a guy approach my boss, and he found our company through the Apprentice of the Year website. So he saw who had won our region and saw that it was my boss, and approached him for a job because he wanted to also enter the competition and thought that was a really good company to be working for. So that was a cool benefit for the employers for sure.
Yeah, so you're attracting good employees, you're retaining good employees, and you get even better employees back after they've been through this process. And you get to be acknowledged in front of the industry as well in terms of being somebody that is supportive of your staff and the industry in general too. Thank you, Mike and Hunter. Something new that we're introducing for this year is, for those of you who may or may not be aware, we have quality marks that acknowledge the success of our entrance into our competitions, specifically for House of the Year and for Commercial Project Awards. We've now introduced this for Apprentice of the Year. And this is for both the apprentice and for the employer. So just going back to what we were just talking about, the employer does get to celebrate and acknowledge the success that their employee has had in this competition, as well as as an individual, the apprentice gets to acknowledge where they've got to. So we do that for those that make the top 10. And again, I'll just touch on that process a little bit further down the track. But if you make it to the top 10 for your regional event, there's a quality mark for that. There's a quality mark for the first, second and third place getter for the regional events, and then for the first, second and third place getter for the national events. So it's quite exciting to be able to celebrate your success in a visual way as well. So just getting down into the details a little bit. Just first of all, are you eligible to enter? You have got to have done at least 18 months of your national certificate by the 13th of April. Now, the 13th of April is the date that our entries close this year. So that 18 months is a hard and fast date. And we have reduced this from 2 years down to 18 months. And we do get quite a few people asking us for exemptions to that ruling. Unfortunately, it is a hard and fast rule. But hopefully, giving everybody 6 extra months this year, we are freeing up and making it a little bit more accessible. So that is a hard and fast rule for 18 months by the 13th of April. Either your first or second time entering the competition, providing you haven't been a national finalist. So if you've been through the regional competition and you weren't the winner of the region, you are able to enter it for a second time. And you must still be an apprentice on the 13th of April as well. A few key dates on the competition. So entries opened on Friday. We all sitting around our computers waiting with bated breath, hoping that the entries would roll in thick and fast. So entries are well and truly open, and they close on the 13th of April. So please do make sure that the entries are submitted by then. Again, if you're having any issues or questions, there'll be some information at the end of this in terms of how to reach out, but certainly the branches within your region will be the best point of contact for any queries around that, to help you with anything you might need to know. Then we have the regional practicals are on the 14th of June. We'll talk again a little bit more about them shortly, but they happen obviously on the same date at the same time across the country at different Carter stores. So you'll all be building the same project, and you won't know what that is until you open the plans on the morning, but that's a pretty exciting day. Then the regional awards are held between August and September. Then from that, the winner of each of the regions goes to the national competition, which is being held in Auckland on the 9th and 10th of October. So just to dig a little bit deeper into the different stages. So stage 1 is the written application that is made up of 2 main pieces of work. One is a why me, and again we'll touch on that in a little bit, and a project submission. So it's submitting an overview and an outline and quite a detailed overview of a project that you've worked on. Again, all the details that you need for this are online, but everybody enters. That's the first step. And then everybody does the practical challenge, which, as I said, is on the 14th of June this year. So you'll be advised which carded store you need to go to, and there'll be a bunch of information that goes out around what you need to bring for that, etc., etc. Then from the scores that you get from your written application and from the practical challenge, they're combined, and the top 10 entrants from each region then go through to stage 2, which comprises a site visit and an interview. Now, the site visit can be the site that your project submission was based on, or it could be one that you're working on now. Totally up to you. And then there is an interview with a set of judges as well, which we'll touch on a little bit further down the track. So after the site visit and the interview, those scores are combined, and we get our first place, second place, and third place for each region, and those place getters are announced at the regional awards events, which, as I said, take place over August and September. Then we hold the national competition on the 9th and the 10th of October in Auckland this year. The 9th is the practical build, and so you go from a 2-hour practical challenge at a regional level to a 6-hour practical challenge at the national level, which is a very busy day, but lots of fun. And then the next day you will have another interview with the national judges. Then that night we announce the Apprentice of the Year winner, first, second, and third place. Something else that happens in about June of the following year. So, for example, for those that get to the nationals in 2025, so the top 10, they will then go on the Outward Bound experience in June in 2026. So we will talk a little bit more about the Outward Bound experience shortly, but it's a pretty awesome opportunity to go on, and it's part of your prize pack as winning that regional event as well. Okay, so how do you sign up? Go to the Apprentice of the Year website, and again, we will have a few more details at the end of this presentation. apprenticeoftheyear.co.nz. As I said, entries are open now and close on the 13th, and we're pretty strict around those dates as well, just to keep it fair, really. One of the things that's really important to understand, specifically at the start of the process, is how many points that written application makes towards your final points total. So you can see there on the screen, there's a total 500 points available for the regional competition, with the written application that you do to enter the competition and the practical component making a combined total of 275 points, and then the interview at 125 and site visit at 100. So you can see that written application is quite a chunky part, but the practical component does make up a higher percentage of your points at that stage. A little bit of information here on when you do apply. The photos, we don't need fish photos. As fun as they are, just head and shoulders photo is fine. Again, any questions around whether a photo is appropriate, just let us know, it's no problem. Tessa, I'll hand over to you at this point to talk through this side of things.
Thanks, Charlotte. So yeah, I'll be talking about the Why Me and the project submission, which is a pretty chunky part of this. So in the interest of everyone's time, I'll be super speedy, but let me know if I'm going too fast. So the Why Me is a pretty important part. It's been overlooked a lot in the past by entrants, and I think we just need to be really clear about what it is and what it isn't. And what it is it's telling your story to the judges. That may seem like sort of a bit of a fluffy aspect, and sure, it's not as technical as the project submission, but it's still really important to let us know why you think you're the Apprentice of the Year and what sets you apart from the other apprentices you're competing against. So this is where the judges want to hear about your journey getting to where you are today. So a couple of examples, areas you can touch on. A good one is what made you want to start your apprenticeship? You know, do you have a family history in construction? Were you in another industry and now you're retraining later in life? Or did you just know from early on that you were good with your hands and wanted to do something practical? Anything like that. Next up, what sets you apart from other apprentices in the competition? Like I mentioned, if you're retraining later in life from another industry, what skill set are you bringing over that you use in your day-to-day as a building apprentice? That's a good example. Does your employer do a particular kind of construction that enables you to learn about, it enables you a unique skill set? Like, are you doing villa restorations? That's a very specific type of construction. Are you doing high-end architectural? Whatever it is, how does it inform you as an apprentice, and how does that set you and your skill set apart? Another one is if you do anything outside of your night courses and your day-to-day on site, if you're doing anything additional like attending industry events, doing your own independent research on products or building code, all of that stuff, the judges really want to hear, because that shows that you are going that extra step above the average apprentice, and that's really cool. Another good thing to include in here is your career aspirations. So no matter what they are, the judges want to hear about it. They want to know, do you want to go into, being a training advisor? Do you want to own your own building company? Whatever it is, you're not going to gain or lose marks for whatever you choose, but it's great to hear about, and it gives a bit of colour to your entry. A really big thing here is not to be humble. There's a fine line between that and being braggy, but err on what you think is appropriate. But we really want you to be proud of who you are, what you've achieved, and all of that. We don't want you to be shy, which is a very Kiwi mindset.
Be more braggy than humble.
Yes, I would err on that side. And then just be really genuine in your interview. Like Charlotte said, this earns a pretty significant number of points, 35 out of 100 for this. So really put a good amount of effort into it. Don't just write it off as the fluffy part. You can flick over now, Charlotte. Cool. So the project submission is uploaded separately, and this is where the judges will get a really good sense of your skill set as an apprentice and a deeper understanding of the project you've chosen to write on. So a couple of key things to think about here. First up is the layout and formatting. You want to make sure you've laid it out nice and professionally, and we'll show you an example in just a moment. You want to have good attention to grammar and spelling, all that sort of stuff. And think carefully about how you structure it. An introduction and a conclusion are a good way to structure your thoughts. Don't be shy of an index. The judges love an index. What to include? You want to give plenty of detail about the project you've chosen. So include photos, plans, timelines. That said, don't just simply upload a set of plans or a document full of pictures. That won't get you many marks at all, and we always have a couple of those every year, so don't do yourself a disservice by doing that. You need to write the submission around those details and those images. We want to hear specifically about what you've done as part of a build, so it'll become pretty clear if you've not done a lot on the build by the time that we get to the site visit, if you do progress to the top 10 in your region. We want to know which tasks you carried out on the build, and what things you learned. We really want to hear about any challenges you faced and how you overcame them, or any learning curves that they posed you with. Anything like that is really important to include. And of course, we want to hear about your successes too. So any aha moments you had during the build, or any extra responsibility that you were entrusted with, anything like that. And just in terms of what the judges are looking for, the key thing is that they want to understand that you have a good understanding of the project you've chosen to write on, the products and the building code. Don't be afraid of being specific. The more detail, the better. One of my judges last year put down a submission head red, and this entrant went on to win. And he said, "Oh my gosh, this guy should be training us, not the other way around." Cool. So this is a really good example of a winning regional submission from a few years back. And he then went on to come second in nationals. So a really high quality one. Just going back to those points I mentioned before, His submission is a really good example of these. So you can see he's laid it out professionally, big tick. He's got, the Apprentice of the Year logo, he's got his employer's logo, page numbers, headings, all that sort of thing. I'll just jump back one, Charlotte. Soz. Thanks. You can see he's provided a little bit of an introduction there. This is a good thing to include in your submission, but don't overlap it or do it in place of the why me. So, it's better to just leave that all to the why me and get those points there. I'll flip over now. He includes a lot of relevant information here, and again, you can see the layout as well. Lots of good. He's got the good structure with the headings and bullet points and all that. But in terms of the relevant information, he's not just uploaded plans. You can see he's added, you can't really see, but these are available online. But imagine you can read this text. He's included a few sections from the plans, and he's included a lot of information about the products used, for instance, where he's talking about RAD board. And further down, again, it's hard to read, but you can find this online. He talks about how he learned to use that product on this job and the learning curve that was, tricks he found to make that easier. Being specific with products and all that is good. And finally, the big thing is that he's shown the judges what they're looking for, which is that he understands the project and he understands every aspect of it. This was a really good one he wrote on because he pretty much touched every stage of the build. One thing I know is that you can't, you're not picking the jobs that your employer has, so that can be a bit tricky, but use your best judgment and use the best project you have at your disposal. And a key piece of advice here is that I would write really authentically about what you were involved in. You don't want to get, amazing marks for this and fly through the practical and then get to the site visit or the interview and it's clear that you sort of fluffed yourself up a bit too much in the written submission. Not that anyone would do that. Be really authentic about what you're writing. And one quick last thing that I'll include is I get a lot of apprentices every year saying, I became a builder because I'm not good at writing and spelling and all that. And that's totally fine. Spell check is your friend. Get your mum or your dad or your partner to do a spell check. There's nothing wrong with getting your boss to do it a once over as well. Just don't let them rewrite the whole thing because, again, that'll come back to bite you in the end. One thing about this submission from Paolo, and he won't mind me saying this because we're good mates, but he was very new to the English language and there is a bit of broken English in there. That's fine. He still was able to present it very professionally and good spelling and got his points across. So on one hand, don't worry about writing not being your number one skill set, but do put a lot of effort into presenting yourself with your best foot.
Can I just make a couple points, Tessa?
Yes.
Just off what you were saying, two little things actually. Off your last point, another big thing is please don't use ChatGPT or anything like that to try and write it for you. Because, I'm not a judge, but I can really clearly tell when something's been written by ChatGPT, and I've had a couple of the judges mention that to me, like, we have seen a couple and it sticks out. So make sure not to do that. And the other thing is I have a couple points about the regional write-up, but I can share those later. But on my national submission, I did a project that I actually only joined the team on there once, like frames that were already up, but the whole structure of the building was up, and I stayed with the build to the end there. So I was only really there for the second half. So I didn't, like you say, I just told them about the parts that I was involved in, and then I gave as much knowledge as I possibly could about the entirety of the building as a whole. But yeah, you don't have to be part of a $5 million house build from start to finish to be able to write about it. You could literally write about a fence. This is pretty simple, but a small renovation or a garage that you've built. But if you could tell the judge about everything there is to possibly know about that shed, and you've done a really good job on the work as well, and you can back them up, bouncing one off the other, then that's better than, like you say, fluffing around, trying to sort of muddle your way through something else and misrepresent yourself, I suppose.
Thanks, Hunter, very much. Tessa, have you got anything more to add?
No, that just about covers it for me.
Okay, thank you. Hunter, I rebuilt my garage door. Do you reckon I've got a shot? I'm going to go with no.
I was just going to say as well that just to touch on Tessa's point is there are examples on the website, so you can have a look at different examples and you can see different layouts and different everything.
Yeah, thanks, Nanda. Tessa, do you want to just talk a little bit about where Paolo's got to now? So Paolo was he won't mind, he's still very heavily involved. So Paolo was involved 2 years, 2023, was he? 22, 23? And we've seen him every competition since, just coming down to help at the Nationals and see what's going on. So he's still really involved. Do you want to just talk a little bit about where he's got to?
Yeah, absolutely. Paolo's, he was working for a master builder, still is, and he's very much involved in the association. He's now with the same employer, but in a senior role where he's running sites, and he's also really involved with his local building community through master builders. He sits on our North Harbour in Auckland branch committee, and he's second in line for the throne or the chair position. So he's, and a lot of that comes down to the confidence that this competition gave him and the people it connected him with that have given him the confidence to get involved in that. So that's really cool.
And he's still only young, isn't he? He's like early 20s now. So, yeah, no, he's done really well. So it's just an example of the sort of leg up this thing can give you. So yeah, as Nanda said, there are examples of these submissions online, and there are also examples of previous regional practical and national practical projects. So if you wanted to go in and have a look and see what's been made before, and look at the plans and the instructions and have a look at them, then they're all available online. So the practical component, so again, everyone that enters does this bit, so the written submission and then the practical. As we've said, this happens on the 14th of June across Carter stores, is worth 175 points out of a possible total of 50. Remembering that it's just the practical and the written submission that get you through to the top 10. So out of 275 points, this is nearly 2/3 of them. Paddy, can I get you just to touch on the practical and judging the practical in terms of what you look for?
Yeah, sure thing. So the practical itself can be a little bit daunting. You're going to turn up and see other people there competing against you, right next to you. And we do see a lot of people turn up with the mentality of it being a bit of a race, and thinking that if you finish first, then you win the practical competition. It's a lot wider than that. So we're looking at a lot of different elements throughout that build time. We're looking at how you perform under the pressure. We want to see the tidiness or the method in which you're building to keep your area nice and clean and safe and concise. You're going to get a set of plans for something that you have no idea what you're building. Really take your time, understand what it is you're trying to build before rushing off and starting. That's probably the biggest tip. I don't know if the boys on the call can attest to that, but we see that all the time where people, they rush off and they'll go and cut a bit of timber and they'll cut that wrong, and that can throw their whole practical build out, and the pressure that creates as well. So you're going to want to really take it calmly at the start and get into your work really methodically. We look at a lot at the health and safety elements. We do have a point system where if we're pulling you up for health and safety issues, then we're marking that down, and that does go against you quite heavily. So just be mindful of what you're doing and that you're doing that safely. We're looking at your workmanship, that quality finish. Again, it's not about finishing first. You really want to finish the project, but you want to make sure that when you do, it's built to the plan, and it's built to a standard that will get you through to the next level. And and yeah, just really your skills and your persona on that site. Just wanting to really understand how it is that you work, to make sure that you're ticking off all those boxes of what it is to be a gifted carpenter.
Thanks, Paddy. Hunter and Mike, have you got anything you want to add to the practical challenge?
Yeah, Patty kind of touched on it, but a big thing for me was I didn't want to leave any easy points laying out there, left behind. And health and safety is a massive one there. For me, it was a simple decision. I get there, I put my earmuffs and my safety glasses on, they don't come off. Um, if the judges catch you using power tools, say using a skill saw without them, hey, that's points that you've lost, and it has more or less nothing to do with the quality of your build. So you could still smash it out the park on your build, but you might have lost a few points there. And if it was to come down to maybe missing out on the top 10 or missing out on a place by just a few points, you'll be really disappointed that you didn't do that. It's a super simple thing. You don't have to practice it. Yeah, just an easy thing to do. And I definitely say to anybody, play your own game when you're there. Like Patty said, there are other people around you. They're doing their own thing. There'll be somebody else that probably starts cutting into something before everybody else. Don't worry, they're doing their own thing. Just focus on you, and don't get caught up looking at other people as well. For all you might see somebody's cut something different to you. Hey, for all you know, they've got it wrong. So don't get distracted and think, oh shoot, that person's done something different to what I have. Just play your own game. Yeah, stick to your guns. Yeah.
Thanks very much, Hunter. Mike, are you still there? Have you got anything to add?
Yep. My advice is just make sure that you read all the information. I think Patty touched on it as well, but you get given a plan with drawings on it, and then you get given an information sheet, and you kind of have to marry the two together. And when I was doing my regional, I think I spent maybe 10 minutes working out what the overhang was, and then further on throughout the build, I realized that information was on the information sheet. So I could have just found it straight away, and I ended up wasting 10 minutes just because I didn't read all of the instructions. So that's definitely my advice. Make sure you go through, you read all of it first, you understand it before you start making your cuts, because you only get enough timber to make it once. There's not any offcuts or anything. Like, you can't use spare timber or anything. So if you make a cut that's wrong, it's pretty difficult to recover from.
Thanks, Mike. And we do allow time. There's time set aside at the start where it's just looking at the plan, so you don't pick up any tools. So you do have that dedicated time, but by all means, take more time if you need it. It's not once that timer goes off in terms of you can start. You don't have to. You can take all the time you need to make sure you've got it right. So that's really good advice. Thank you both.
Just one more thing that I've just remembered.
Yep.
Same goes for every stage of the competition, really. But you really want to show up and present the best version of yourself. Make sure that your tools are tidy. You don't want to just be walking up and still blowing off a bit of sawdust from the last day's work. Keep everything tidy. You don't want to be showing up with rust on any of your tools. Give stuff a bit of a clean. Sharpen your chisels. The judges will appreciate you having turned up with a chisel that you have sharpened and shown some care for. You'll quite likely need tools like that they do a lot of work around hand tools. So yeah, show up presentable, show up on time, interact with the other people around you. They're all there to do the same thing. They're probably just as nervous as you. So just show up, be friendly, and yeah.
Thanks, Hunter. And just to touch on something Hunter said, in terms of the tools that you need, you will be sent a really detailed list. So it's not guesswork. You'll be sent a really specific list around what to bring. So don't worry about that. Okay, so then from that piece, from the submission and from the practical, we then move into our top 10. Now, something I just want to mention at this point is you will get feedback at whichever point you exit the competition. So if you don't make it to the top 10, you will get feedback on your submission and your practical. So you can see exactly where you might have lost points, and if you did want to come and get involved again next year, where you could do better. But just generally in your sort of day-to-day job, you can see potentially what you could have improved on. If you get through to the top 10 but you don't make it to the nationals, you will get feedback on the site visit and the interview as well. So we're really hot on making sure that you get feedback at whatever point you exit. If you make it right the way through and you're a Hunter and a Mike and you make it through the nationals, then you still get feedback as well in terms of what the judges assessed you on. So Patty, can I go back to you in a second and just get you to talk about judging the interview and the site visit? Again, just touching on the value of the points for these two components. So the interview, 125 points, and the site visit is 100 points. You will meet with the 3 regional judges for the interview and the site visit, and this will take place sometime in July. Not really important, but just so you know, there are 2 sets of judges that judge the regional competition. There is the practical judges, which judge just the practical side of it, and the regional judges are the judges that look at your submission and then come back and look at the interview and the site visit. So that's just an FYI. Patty, do you want to just speak to the site visit and interview from a judging perspective?
Right. I did wonder if Hunter could see my notes, because I've written here presentation, and that goes across everything that you are doing for this competition. It's about how you're presenting yourself, how you're presenting your tools, how you present your site. It all really, really matters. So I said it earlier, we're looking for really well-rounded individuals, because we need to make sure that our winners carry our brand really, really strongly. So we're looking at not just the builder, but we're looking at that all around. So you're going to have people turn up to your site to have a look at your site. Make sure you're doing those things that you do every single day. Like, you need to induct people into or onto your site. If one of the judges turn up and they're not wearing the appropriate PPE, don't let them on. That goes a long way, because you're the professional, you're on display, and you're presenting, I suppose, your case of why you should be the regional winner. Make sure everybody on site is behind you and they understand what you're trying to do. Last thing you want is to carry out a site visit and have a couple of monkeys up, yelling stuff out and being idiots. You really want to, again, presentation, make sure that your site's clean, everyone on site is doing what they should be, and because they're looking at everything. They'll look at your tools, to Hunter's point earlier. Sharpen your chisels, tidy your tool bag, because, they're going to be looking at everything. If you've got an old skill saw blade on your skilly, go and get a new skill saw blade, because, people, they want to make sure that you've got the kit, that you look after it, you know how to use it, and it's working well. In terms of the interview, again, presentation, treat this like that job interview, for the job that you really, really want. Turn up with a real good attitude, dress nicely. It's about presentation. There's going to be questions asked of you in the interview. They are building related for a lot of them. But there's also other questions in there as well, and probably more around that why me piece. So make sure you know what you've written in your why me and your submission, because chances are the questions will be around that stuff. So if it's been a while since you've submitted your stuff, make sure you're having a read of all that before your interview. Just make sure you do a lot of prep, well, not a lot of prep, but some prep, so that when we turn up and we want to have that interview, you're putting your best foot forward.
Thanks, Patty, very much. I don't know if I said this at the start, but Patty's at BCITO and very experienced with working with apprentices and training advisors. So he's a font of knowledge. So we move on to our regional awards, which is when you do get to dress up and celebrate your success. So these happen throughout the country. They don't all happen on the same date. As I said earlier, they happen over August and September. Really good events to celebrate where you've come to. We will have each region will most often have the winner from the previous year come and talk to you as well. So they're pretty cool events to bring your family and your employer to, and those that have supported you, to acknowledge where you've got to. And the details for those regional events are on the website too. Then we get into the nationals. Now, the nationals this year are being held on the 9th and 10th of October in Auckland. They're being held at the Cloud this year. For the last few years, we've run the national practical event at Event Finder Stadium, but we're hosting that at the Cloud, and it's a very full-on few days, but lots of fun and lots of people around you to support you. So it's a good couple of days, and again, another awesome opportunity to bring those people that have supported you, whether it's your family or employer, along to acknowledge where you've got to. I won't talk too much about the nationals, simply because there'll be a bunch of other information that goes out for those that get to that point. The Friday night, so the Thursday is the practical event. The Thursday is another interview with the national judges, and then we have the awards gala on the Friday night. Now, you can see photos of our national finalists from last year looking very spruced up and very happy. A great night. Now, can I just cut back to Hunter and Mike and just to ask you both what it's been like for you having gone through this? And Hunter, you're a bit fresher in the journey, but Mike, you've certainly you've had another year to kind of build on your experience coming through this. It would be great just to get a bit of a sort of a soundbite from both of you around what it's been like for you since being involved in this at a national level. Hunter, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think probably if nothing else, I got a big boost in my self-belief. For quite a while when I started building, I didn't actually believe that I could make it. I really thought, oh, I'm just a stink apprentice and I'll always be the sacky guy pushing the broom. But to me, it was about proving to myself that I could do this. And yeah, I just went out there to give it my all and say, hey, I'm here, I've done the work. And yeah, I got my reward in the end. Yeah.
Thanks, Hunter. What about you, Mike?
Yeah, it's been great. I've loved the months following. It's always exciting who comes up to you and actually recognizes you as making the finals and stuff like that. And I think there's been heaps of opportunities that have come my way because of the competition, which has been awesome. And I've created some great relationships with the other apprentices that were at the finals with. And also, I'm sure we'll talk about it later as well, but the Outward Bound experience for me was awesome. It was a life-changing experience, and I had such a great time on that. So that was an opportunity that I never would have got if I hadn't gone to the competition. So it's been awesome, and I just can't talk highly enough about the competition. And I'll pretty much tell anyone who'll listen that they should be entering it today. It's just been so good. So
yeah, if you're at this stage, then good on you. But yeah, definitely try and get down to the practical and enter for sure.
Thanks, Mike. Did you want to talk about the Outward Bound experience while you're there?
Yeah, sure. It was pretty cool. It was, I think, 2.5 weeks down the top of the South Island in July, so it was pretty chilly, but it was pretty awesome. And you go with a whole bunch of other tradies. There's three groups. I'm not sure how many there would have been. Probably close to 50 of us in total, divided into three different groups. And the challenges that you do are awesome. You do some really cool kind of adventure outdoor stuff, but the lessons that you learn are pretty can be applied to the rest of other aspects of your life, which is awesome. And for me, it was challenging in different ways. Like I play a lot of sports, so the physical side was not too difficult, but the actual mental side was a mega challenge. And I think I grew as a person, just being challenged mentally throughout it. So it's a fantastic opportunity if you get to go. And even if you don't get through to the nationals, I would definitely recommend trying to get down into to one of those tradie courses. I know there's other avenues of getting down to it as well. So yeah, it's a pretty awesome opportunity.
Thanks, Mike, very much. And just to touch a little bit more on the prizes that are available, and I also want to at this stage acknowledge Carter's and BCITO, who we can't do this competition without them. They're our sponsors, and Carter's our principal sponsor. And one of the prizes that Hunter will be able to attest to is the use of a ute for a year, courtesy of Carter's, which is a pretty cool prize to win. But alongside that, there are at the regionals, there is various sets of tools and cash prizes that you win. And then, as we said, the Outward Bound experience is part of the prize for each of the regional winners. So yeah, everybody that we send on this comes back absolutely raving about it. So if you do get the opportunity, it's a pretty cool thing to be involved in. So look, that brings us to the end of this presentation. I just want to say, look, we are available here for any questions or anything you want to know about the competition. The first port of call would be that Apprentice of the Year website that's up on your screen at the moment. There's an email address that comes straight through to National Office, and then what we're likely to do is direct you to the most appropriate regional contact. So, for example, as I said, Tessa, that's been talking to you today, is looking after the Auckland and the Northern competitions, and is a font of knowledge, as is the other branch contacts throughout the country in terms of guiding you through this process. But look, from our perspective, it's one of the coolest events that we run in the year, and certainly my team involved in a national perspective, we get really invested in all the apprentices. And again, probably Mike and Hunter can attest to, we don't leave you to your own devices throughout any of this process. We wrap you up and give you all the support that you need and ensure that you have the best opportunity that you can to succeed. So look, thank you once again to everyone involved. A huge thank you to Carter's that are a huge supporter of this, and as well as the BCITO. Is there anyone else involved in the team in the call at the moment that just wanted to say anything as final words?
I'll just get a closing point in, if you don't mind, Charlotte. Two little things. One is that, like, I've been involved in heaps of different competitions and all sorts of events in different groups and organizations throughout my life, but the Apprentice of the Year was probably the most professionally run competition or event, anything that I've been involved in and for a long time, if not ever. I was blown away by the entire thing, right from the regionals through to the nationals. I was super impressed, and I was never left thinking that I was being hung out to dry, or that they didn't care, basically. So yeah, you won't be you won't be left hanging. Yeah, I was super impressed, and I continue to be.
Thank you.
My last piece of advice, if I had to only give one, would be, and my thinking throughout was, imagine you are a builder, you've gone out on your own and you are trying to sell yourself to a client. What would you want a client who, you need them to pay you, basically. You need them to pick you over another builder to do a job for them. What would you want them to think right from, when you turn up? Is your ute or your van or whatever else it is you're driving, is it clean? Is it professional? Is it tidy? Are your tools suitable for the job? Are you presented well? Do you look like you've just been on a 3-day bender and smoking cigarettes when you turn up? Or are you professional? Are you turning up to an interview in a suit and well presented? Have you got a well-rounded knowledge? And if you don't know how to find something, how would you find it? And are you temperate? Can you deal with the stress of the situation? All these tiny little facets. I think that's what the competition is really about. It's about judging someone and saying, hey, how would you go and doing basically what is the pinnacle of our trade, is going out and getting a job for yourself and following it through and completing it. So if you're ever wondering, hey, what should I do here? Think about it through that kind of lens.
That's awesome advice. Thanks, Hunter. And is a really good place to end, I think, unless there's anything from anybody else.
I'll just say that thanks to everyone for staying on the call. This was an incredible amount of really valuable information. I think you've done an amazing job of bringing together a panel to represent each stage of the process and really give some insights along the way to the value of it, the things you can do to put your best foot forward from Michael and Pat Hunter's point of view, and what you look for when you're judging. So a tremendous resource for everyone. We will put this recording on Elevate. We're also planning to put some more segments on the Apprentice of the Year website. So really, really great. Not just presentation, just telling the story of what it's been like and what you need to go through in the process, and the level of support that Master Builders gives to everybody, the participants along the way. Sounds incredible. So if you haven't marked in your calendar and marked out some time to put your application in, I'd say do that now while you've got this motivation and the energy. It sounds like probably one of the best things you can do for your whole life, really. So well done.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody, very much.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.
See you.
Catch up.